people are constantly raising the bar.
Sacrifices need to be made.
What would you guys say are your biggest weaknesses?
You are your enemy right now.
It's success of life.
Just a fucking podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to the Hypertrophy Hustle Show. This week I'm speaking to someone that I've wanted to speak to for quite a while now. We sort of messaged back and forth on Instagram because I think there's quite a few topics that this person can touch on very, very well that have sort of been the fundamental issue within my life or my career choice for the last, I'd say, year and a half, because it's that confliction between fitness sort of making such a big difference and then a medical profession sort of feeling like you're just sticking band-aids on a massive problem. But it really, really depends. So I'm speaking to Dr. Emil or Project Goliath. So once you sort of became a medical doctor and you were sort of at that stage in your life, what sort of occurred or what sort of made you think, shit, maybe I want to go into fitness? Because I guess some people would see it as a regression and they'd think, oh, just go be a PT, blah, blah. And a lot of people see a PT as like a very standard basic job. But then you're sort of thinking along a different line of sort of more entrepreneurship and all that sort of stuff and online coaching. So what sort of made that thought process come about? And when you were a medical doctor, how did that sort of, what got sort of triggered in your mind to make you sort of want to make that transition?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and thanks for having me on the show. It's been a long time coming. So a couple of things. So I've always been into fitness. Since I was 11, I was playing rugby. I worked in a gym all through university. I got my level 2, level 3 qualifications for training people and whatever else. I did a sports science degree in university as well. So I was there in medicine, and then I qualified, and when that happens you become a doctor and you forget everything else that's in life and just be a doctor. So that was the one thing. I've always been into that sort of area. And then as a strongman, I competed as a strongman in 2011. I got morbidly obese. I literally ate myself to morbid obesity, had a health scare at that time in my mid-20s, high blood pressure, probably borderline diabetic, and just thought, shit, this isn't going to end well if I stay like this. So that was the first time nutrition really, interested me as a kind of form of therapy, form of treatment. And I dieted down from that and then worked as a doctor and kind of forgot all about it. And then as I was working through medicine, I was realizing more and more that, as you've said, we're just putting band-aids on problems, and we're not really fixing anything. So, I mean, emergency care, trauma care, or surgery, all that kind of stuff is great, perfect. But, treating heart attacks, strokes, diabetes, all that kind of stuff is stuff that's, it comes from lifestyle. So it got to about 2014 and I was had these sort of rumblings of, I'm not sure that medicine is doing what I want it to be doing. And also I was looking at my bosses who I was working with at the time and thinking, I don't want to be where they are. That is not my end goal. And I was working the long hours. I was doing night shifts. I was not training when I wanted to train, which is really important for me. And the whole full-time work, medical lifestyle just wasn't the one. So I decided to bail, basically. And I didn't have a clue what I was going to do. I knew I was going to start coaching. So I decided January 2015, and the medical year finishes in August. So I had until August to kind of work out what was going on. And I sort of thought, okay, so I'm going to do online coaching. I've got loads of science backing me. I've done loads of qualifications and stuff, which my CV just happened to be amazing for fitness because I've done all this stuff because it was an interest, but I'd never used it before. So then I thought, okay, so I know the science. What else do I need? I need abs. I need to get shredded so I can, be naked on Instagram and people will like me. So I, thought, okay, as with everything, I did that to the extreme and decided to sign up for a bodybuilding show. So February of that year, I signed up for a bodybuilding show in May. And, from there, that was it. I did the bodybuilding show, quit full-time medicine, Started working with a friend who was an online coach, Ryan Evans, PT on Instagram. He's been doing this for a decade, before online coaches were a thing. So he sort of showed me the ropes. 100%. He showed me the ropes very quickly. I kind of got the hang of it, went off on my own. We're still very good mates. And then did it on my own for a bit. And it's gone from there, basically. But and you mentioned having people thinking of it as a regression. I had so much abuse is the wrong word, but so much unsupport. My family didn't know what I was doing. None of my friends who were doctors or in healthcare knew what I was doing. They just thought I was batshit crazy.
Well, I mean, I can see their point, right? I can think sort of like, okay, they can sort of think, okay, maybe he's just going to chase this idealistic dream, blah, blah, influencer on Instagram, whatever, or they don't understand the premise of it. Like, it's in the position I'm in now, right? Like, people don't... I try and tell people what I want to do, and they're like... I don't even try and explain it, really. I'm like, kind of like a fitness educator, I guess, and they're just like, yep, the fuck? And it's like... Going like a podiatrist earns a good salary, right? They have a nice, stable, safe job. Like, I do enjoy podiatry, but it's just probably same feeling as you. It's like, man, like, money is kind of not the thing that I really give a shit about. It's like I could probably earn similar things as an online coach, hopefully, or even just enough to fucking live, and I'm cool with that. Like, don't really care. And then you can actually, it feels like you're actually going to make a difference. Or like fucking, I don't know, because I'm still conflicted about that, because it's like, what if you only get to help the people who are already healthy as fuck? So then, it's such a conflicting topic. But do you feel like when you were in the medical profession, you just kind of felt like a lot of the time, it wasn't really shit that, like, when you fixed it, it wouldn't really make that much of a difference, because they're just shitty lifestyle anyway. Like, they would just be high calorie diet, not exercising, not thinking about sleep at all, living really sedentary, unhealthy lifestyles. Was that sort of quite prominent?
Oh, huge. Like, beyond huge. Like, in fitness, we get in this little bubble where everyone does, 10,000 steps a day and tracks their sleep and whatever else, eats carbs whenever they want. But in real life, which is maybe 70% of the population, people don't even know this exists. They use Instagram for celebrities and Love Island. They're not even aware of the fitness thing. And
especially fitness.
I mean, that's a niche within a niche. So I mean, the prime example is someone coming in having had a heart attack. You give them the aspirin and they ask if they can go out for a smoke. And it's just like,
that actually happens? Like, people seriously? Oh, that's fucked.
That's a regular occurrence. And
seriously,
I'm so disillusioned. I don't even argue anymore. Like, it's like, can I go for a smoke? It's like, look, I'm a doctor. I'm never going to say you can go for a smoke, but also I'm not going to rugby tackle you to stop you, because that's not my job.
Yeah, it's like there's 8 problems that have occurred before that. Like, saying no, don't smoke is not going to fix the shit. It's like, fuck, mate. That sounds. That would sound emotionally fucking draining, or just like. Do you feel like when that kind of shit happens, you would just sort of think in your mind, like, fuck, what am I even doing here?
I did. It was, I chose to not allow it to drain me. Yeah. I chose to not be stressed by it, because I was choosing to be a doctor. I was putting myself in these environments, and certainly for the last 4 years, I've worked very part-time in the ER emergency room. And for me to function in that space and still live the lifestyle and have the mental health that I have, I've chosen to not let that affect me. Yeah. I will walk out of A&E at the end of a shift, and someone will say, oh, do you remember that patient you saw 10 minutes ago? And I'll be like, no, sorry, my mind is blank. I've literally, slate is clean. I'm on purpose, call it a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
I don't let it affect me.
Like, it's just like, you just go in there, do the job properly, and then let it sort of, it feels like a completely different separation. Like, it's me like I work at a shoe store, which is obviously completely different. But it's like my boss would be like, "Hey, do you remember that customer who came in? They had this, and this," and I'd be like, "Fuck no clue." Like it's just not in there. But then anything else in terms of this stuff, I remember every single fucking detail. It's just So one thing that I sort of wanted to get your thoughts on is, so you mentioned briefly before, it's like you have those diseases like diabetes, the chronic conditions that are mainly lifestyle sort of caused, or sort of metabolic syndrome, I guess we term them under a lot of the time. And then you have more sort of like your acute things like fractures, heart attacks, etc. Probably missing a few there, obviously. But with the sort of lifestyle ones, would you agree that the main, like if we had to put it down to a few factors, the main lifestyle things that make the big difference are, one, smoking, but I think we've already drilled smoking into the ground, obesity, or just hyperpalatable, eating a shit ton of food, and then also lack of exercise. Would that be kind of the big three, I guess, that sort of really fuck people up?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to pin it onto any one thing.
Yeah.
And so heart attacks are definitely a lifestyle disease.
Yeah.
Heart attacks fall under ischemic heart disease. Actually, I'd say 70% are at least very strongly influenced by lifestyle, including cancers and things. And yeah, I mean, smoking is kind of this no-brainer, and hopefully it's on its way out.
Yeah.
But yeah, being sedentary, eating crap, eating too much crap, and it's not necessarily obesity. There's people who are kind of not hugely obese, but they're still horribly unhealthy.
Yeah.
So fat distribution and everything else, the issues with BMI, and I mean, I'd say exercise and diet are the two big ones. Lack of sleep is a huge lack of sleep and chronic stress, a huge underlying issues related to all these diseases, but also the mental health of the modern world.
Yeah.
Like all the anxiety, all the depression, all the low self-esteem, all the low purpose that, so many people are suffering from, that those things are underlying all of that.
It really makes me sad to hear that, because it's like, fuck. Like, I don't know, I feel like I've been lucky to sort of do this. I like stumbled into doing this podcast and stuff, and it's sort of given me a shit ton of purpose. And it's like the guests, it's hard to speak to these sort of people and sort of then go and be lazy, or I don't know, be unproductive, because it's like you see these people and you see how they've done it. I've got the blueprint fucking handed to me, but I think most people don't have that. And do you feel like people? Because I think ever since I started this, I find it hard to look at people in an objective way and sort of realize life's fucking hard. Like, this shit is, you're wading through a puddle of fucking constant turmoil to achieve stuff, in a very pessimistic way. But do you feel like all this constant, like, do you feel like it's mainly due to the lifestyle we live? Like, I've talked a lot about sort of being a workaholic on this podcast. It's like people will do that at a job they fucking hate. They'll try and be a workaholic, and then they'll stress themselves the fuck out. Then outside of work, they just gorge themselves on food and smoke and blah 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 and drink alcohol. And it's just, do you feel like the environment we live in is just so conducive to poor health?
It is, without a shadow of a doubt. And beyond stressful jobs and workaholism and whatever else, it's the crazy marketing budgets spent on crap food, whether it's sugary sodas or burgers, fast food chains, whatever else. And it's, as you say, it's hyper palatable, it's super easy to eat, and people are almost walking unawares into it. But like, there's two aspects, there's two facets. One is the environment, which you can't control. I know we're taxing sugar, and I know we're getting upset about the marketing and sending strongly worded emails and whatever else we're apparently doing, but like, the environment ain't going to change. It's just going to get worse. There's too much money in it. The other aspect is personal responsibility, and taking yourself out of that environment or not allowing it to influence you. And I mean, in the absence of being able to change the environment, you change yourself.
Yeah.
And for me with medicine, that was exactly it. Like, I didn't like the system and I didn't like what we were doing. Yeah. I'm not going to start posting on Facebook about how upset I am about, the NHS in the UK. I'm just going to leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
I admire the people who do it. There's groups, there's everything, all sorts, but I'm going to do my own thing. Yeah. I'm going to change me and I'm going to build the lifestyle that I want to live. Yeah. And I'm going to be super healthy and live what I want. I'm going to do what I need to do.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a difficult one because it's like we often look at doctors and we sort of think they are sort of the pinnacle of treating stuff, but then they're forced into systems that don't really allow them to do what they want to do. Like how much would you agree with sort of the common they end up at the GP and then the GP gives them some antibiotics and blah, blah, blah. Is that like super fucking common, or is that sort of like a bit of BS? Or I guess it's different in the sort of hospital system.
It's getting better. It's getting much better with GPs. But I mean, I can't talk for GPs. I'm a emergency doctor, so we see so many people who have gone to their GP, either couldn't get an appointment for weeks,
right, or
didn't get what they wanted, or whatever else, and come and see us. And then from our point of view, we can't. We have to practice our medicine in a defensive way, which means if someone comes in with X, we do these 3 tests. There's no kind of clinical acumen where you think, oh, it might not be that, or it might be this. It's just they come in with this, we do these 3 tests, and these results decide what we do. I mean, an algorithm could do it. And will probably in the next however many years. So yeah, there is a lot of kind of automatic decision making based on guidelines, and guidelines in inverted commas because they're not guidelines, they're rules. If you deviate from them, you need a very, very good reason to.
Right.
And that's even before we open the can of worms, which is modern scientific literature and where the money comes from and publication bias and everything else.
Right.
This is where guidelines come from.
Right.
So basically, you've got doctors who are super stressed, overworked, the system is crumbling, and they're forced to make these decisions. They won't make clinical decisions because they don't have enough time or enough support to do it. So they just make these automatic decisions. Someone comes in a bit hot, a bit of a temperature, antibiotics, get them out of the department because there's a 4-hour rule and we need to diagnose and treat and whatever else. So it's not clinical. It's not entirely clinical medicine. It's kind of playing the game.
That's fucking unfortunate. It's like it sucks that we're in that position, but I guess like the medical system is so taxed and sort of so stressed, and it's like we're fighting to, I guess, keep it on its feet. I guess like a good sort of comparison is in my field, podiatry. We have some terrible practitioners. We have some good practitioners. Like, orthotics, like they do work. They are good. It just, if you prescribe them like a fucking idiot, they're not going to fucking do shit. So it's like, but they cost a lot of money and it's easy to convince someone they need them. So you'll get a lot of podiatrists, really depends where you are, but you get quite a few podiatrists who will just prescribe the fuck out of orthotics. Someone comes in with callus on their big toe, give them orthotics. It's like, that's a fucking idiotic. Like, yeah, callus can lead to corns and blah blah, but that's a bullshit argument. Like, frankly, you can take a corn out like it's no one's fucking business, and it's just like, I don't know. I feel like it's different for GPs because I feel like they're kind of forced to not use their actual knowledge. They're just kind of forced to say, fuck it, do that, do that, do that, do that, and then that leaves them kind of with no choice. Would you say?
I'd agree that there's an element of the system pushes us towards a certain way. And it's certainly not the GP's faults, and this is in the UK where we don't get incentives for prescribing certain things. I've never had a medical incentive for doing anything that I'm aware of, so I prescribe things according to my perception of the evidence. But you're still pressured to kind of see people and get them out. And I mean, I've been in A&E since 2013, so 6 years. And every year there are new kind of systems to accommodate bigger and bigger patient loads. And every winter we have winter pressures, open up new wards. And now it's July. We're on winter pressures now in July. Right. Every year the winter pressures continue until next summer, and then there's new sort of systems that are put into place the next winter, and then they continue, and it's just a never-ending arms race of increasing demand at literally an annual pace. Like there's data to show this. So of course the system is going to buckle, and of course we're just pushed to deal with it. Basically, it's like just cope.
Do you feel like that's the kind of thing that really sort of fucks me up? It's like, this is where I think the idealistic idea of like, oh, we can just educate people about their lifestyle, blah blah blah. It's like, not fucking really. It's like you have these people, like people will come into my clinic and they can barely fucking walk. They can't feel their feet because they're neuropathic. They've got diabetes. It's like, you cannot just tell them like, eat less, move more. Like, you try and tell them that, it's like, fuck. Like, it's really fucking hard. And this is the place where I think I'd like to get your thoughts on this. I think people in the general population who don't understand drugs will then go and say drugs are basically useless or they're unnatural or blah, blah, blah. From what you've sort of seen, would you say drugs do a net positive, or in general, obviously a lot of the time, and it's a difficult conversation again with like antidepressants or something, because some people say we don't need them at all. Some people say they're actually a pretty good tool for some people. And I guess it's very context dependent, but what's your sort of thoughts and consensus around drugs in general? Because there's such a... people view them as like, oh my god, that's unnatural. I should never do drugs, or have drugs, I mean, or be on drugs, because then it's just downhill from there. But it's like, don't know, like if you're a type 1 diabetic, like you need fucking insulin, mate. Like, and then I guess same thing, type 2 diabetes. At some point you're gonna need some metformin or something. It's like, it's very hard to just control that with lifestyle. Like once it gets so bad to a point, it's like, fuck. And if we can extend like lifespans and increase quality of life through drugs, I guess maybe they'll have some side effects, but it's, why would we not? Why would we not use them?
I think in answer to your question, and first off, I mean, drugs, you can't put them under one term. Yeah. There's infinite different 100%. Drugs for infinite different conditions. And you know what? Pharmacology, I trained as an anaesthetist. So pharmacology, I absolutely love it. I mean, you give certain medications and they kick in within seconds. You see it on the monitors. It's just incredible. Magic. Like, I love the geeky side of it. It's crazy. But you can't generalize with drugs. And you know what? With the current state of the population as a snapshot, as a cohort, then drugs have a healing effect. Like if someone has a heart attack, aspirin helps. And you know what? Actually, the evidence changes. So, I mean, currently we're giving aspirin for heart attacks, right? Because that's what the consensus is. But people are going to drugs as these kind of quick fixes. Like someone comes in pre-diabetic or, their first diabetes. It's like they say, right, you should try lifestyle interventions. Off you go. Come back in 6 weeks. They've tried lifestyle interventions, whatever that means. And they're like, okay, now let's go on metformin. And it's kind of like, one, if they hadn't got to that point, they wouldn't need metformin. Two, if they'd actually implemented something proper at that point, they wouldn't need metformin. And three, when they start metformin, they could still potentially reverse it or stop the progression. You see people on 3 different, anti-diabetic medications, and there's this clear progression with stuff. And the issue with drugs is that they're seen as a magic pill, is that they're seen as this kind of, when you have this disease, you take these drugs, not this disease is caused by a poor lifestyle. You better sort that out in advance. Yeah, I 100%
agree. It's a scary thing. Like my mum was pre-diabetic, and then all she did is I just basically stopped letting her eat things like Nutella with a spoon. She's not fat or anything. She's tiny. It's just she would go up to the Nutella and be like, oh, I'll just have a tiny bit, and then fuck it, like all the time. And then I was like, nah, mate, no chance. So then I was like, you need to start doing some exercise. And she started doing some exercise. Now she's not pre-diabetic. I wanted her to start lifting. She started running. She enjoys it. Fuck it. Like, it'd be cool if she was powerlifting, but it's not going to happen. So it's like, all I did was, I didn't even do most of it. It's like, she just started running, and then, yeah, now she's not pre-diabetic. And it's like, she didn't have to take one fucking drug, and it's just like, she's not that old. She wouldn't want me disclosing her age, but it's, yeah, it's just like, it wasn't even, if she went on drugs, it was like, there would be nothing stopping her getting 8 other different comorbidities. It's just like, fuck, like, do you feel like, in terms of the medical practitioner, with their education, do they have enough education around? So here's one thing that might scare the shit out of you is, do you generally agree with calories in, calories out? You sort of see that as a pretty good, yeah, because I think some people still debate it. It's controversial, not really. But, so one of my, this is something I talk about, I'll bring up a few times. One of my, I studied podiatry at AUT, we're a great school, we do well in health. And one of my lecturers a while ago was like, yeah, something, controlling weight loss, and then they're like, yeah, calories in, calories out isn't really true. And I'm like, what? You don't believe in calories in? Like, fuck, like, that really fucking hit me like a truck. It's just like, okay, you don't have to tell people calories in, calories out, but if you don't understand the fundamental process that is like that, it's like, fuck, like, what else is controlling it then? Like, clean eating? Do we just, like, is it regulating our insulin? Like, mate, like, I don't know, it seems, I was like, what the fuck? Like, you're kidding me. And then we had a slide on treating, like a slideshow on treating obesity. Not once was calories on there. Nothing at all. It's like energy intake, nothing. Like total calories consumed, fucking nothing. Like total food amount consumed, even volume of food, like fucking nothing. And it's just like, I don't know, I feel like the education among some health practitioners is just abysmal. And it's just like, fuck. Like, when you were studying, did they teach you anything around that sort of stuff, or they didn't say a word about it, or?
Yeah, no, I'd say there might have been the kind of theoretical side of nutrition.
Yeah.
Certainly there was the Krebs cycle and stuff like that,
right,
which is totally irrelevant to everything. There was theory, but I remember when I was in university learning all this stuff, I was trying to diet to dress up as a Spartan for a night out, and I just ate clean. And then when I became morbidly obese, I cut out carbs. Yeah. So that was me as a medical student, as a doctor, applying what I knew about nutrition, which was sweet fuck all.
Yeah.
So it was like, it's getting much better. And, there's a whole like lifestyle medicine movement, British Society of Lifestyle Medicine in the UK. Doctors are getting more educated, and that's great. But generally speaking, as a group, healthcare practitioners don't know. And you know what? Even if they start to know about calories in, calories out, I mean, it's useless to tell a patient that.
Yeah.
It's, it means nothing. Eat less, move more, great. It means nothing.
It's like, cool, mate. So, and what? Like, how do I do that? Like, it's hard to not eat the ice cream at the end of the day. It's like, fuck. Like, I don't know. It's like, for instance, online coaches, they're good at keeping people adherent. That is basically their job. And it's like, fuck. Like, we can't put that burden on medical practitioners, but there's not enough online coaches and PTs, and people can't afford them. It's like Gen Pop, like, I don't know, it's like, can we just throw education at everyone? Like, I don't know, do you think it's within the medical practitioner's sort of scope to?
I think so education, everything you ever need to know is on the internet. I tell this to my clients, like, you're not hiring me because of the stuff I'm telling you. You can find that on the internet. Yeah. Actually, nutrition science, I could summarize in a sentence, all the relevant stuff. Yeah. Like, you're not hiring me because of that either. You're hiring me because I've got the experience to work these basic principles into your lifestyle in a flexible way that you will stick to and then continue to stick to long after I'm gone. That's why you're paying me big money. Nothing to do with nutritional science. And you know what? Most nutritional science spouted around on Instagram is intellectual masturbation. I mean, the principles that we apply as coaches are so basic. If you try and show your client the Krebs cycle or start to tell them about, you know, all these like theories that you read about on Instagram, they don't give a shit.
Nah.
Like, it's irrelevant. Like, okay, sure, if they say I'm trying to control my insulin by doing this, then you can, you know, re-educate them. But, you know, the last thing you want to do is be like, you're an idiot, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Like, how can you think that? It's not how you're going to get buy-in. I forgot the question. What was the question?
How, in terms of most medical practitioners, like for instance, in podiatry, I don't think most podiatrists, or the ones that I know, should be giving education around exercise or nutrition. They just fucking shouldn't. Like, they don't have the basic understanding of, effectively, calories in, calories out. Most don't understand that. Some will, a lot will. So that's me having a pessimistic view. A lot will. But then a lot completely deny it, and they think it's down to magic insulin or whatever, fucking the adipose tissue theory or some bullshit. I don't know. And I wouldn't trust the majority of my classmates to give someone a program or give someone a nutrition plan or whatever, or prescribe them some macros, I don't know, like, or even give them guidelines. It's like, I guess they would say the classic, like, oh, eat more vegetables. I hope they would say this, eat more vegetables. They wouldn't say this, but I'd say eat more protein, blah, blah, blah. Like, they wouldn't know to give that advice, and I don't know if most doctors would either. So it's like, fuck, do you think it's even within the medical practitioner's scope to attempt that?
I'd like to think that doctors and healthcare professionals should be able to give the generic general advice. Unfortunately, there's no consensus on that at the moment. So there's nothing for them to go on apart from personal experience, which often isn't there. But I think that the way to fix the problem one of the ways is to address it for the healthcare professionals first. Like, we're an intelligent, educated bunch. We've got degrees and shit. We should be able to all gain some sort of consensus and do it ourselves. Because we can't tell our patients that they need to, you know, do this, like when we're going out and smoking. Like, we need to lead by example. And that's infinitely more useful than education. That's, you know what, you want the patient to ask you, and then that is when they're going to pick it up. If you're just telling them they need to do this, then nothing's going to happen. But if they say, oh, you know, I saw you walking the other day, or doing this, you know, what kind of thing are you doing? You lost a load of weight. You know, can you help me? Then that is a perfect opportunity, because they're open, they're receptive. You can give them a few little bits. And you know what? Eat more veg. Focus on lean protein at each meal. You know, track your steps, or even track your food, track your steps, track your weight. Off you go. Any advice, anything generic, just do something. But it needs to come from sort of the position of the patient wanting to know. And one way of doing that is by leading by example. Yeah,
I agree. It's definitely, like, what makes me sad is when you see a medical practitioner and they're not really, I mean, it's not their job to be in top shape, but it's like, they don't need to be shredded, but it's like, be somewhere near normal. Like, I don't know, it's like, yes, like, this lifestyle sort of shit, like, that affects all of us, and it's hard for all of us, but it's like, or most of us, and it's like, being in top shape is not the easiest thing, but it's like, it doesn't take much. Like, the moment you're there, you can just maintain, and it's so fucking easy. I reckon I could maintain the physique I've got now, which is by no means insane, by 3 times a week in the gym, maybe, like, just being mindful about what I eat. Like, I don't think it would be that hard. And it's just, yeah, I don't know, this stuff messes me up a little bit, because it's like, I don't want to be so pessimistic as to say the system is terrible and we're fucked. But it's like, we kind of are. And it's like, do you know Steven Pinker?
No.
No, he writes good books around basically Well, his whole idea and what he's trying to get out into the world is basically, well, a lot of other stuff, but basically, the world's getting fundamentally much better, right? Like, people are getting murdered at a lower rate. People are getting sort of kidnapped, whatever. Like, whatever negative statistic you want to look at, but the news reports it as bad, so he's sort of trying to be like, blah, blah, we're actually okay. And the only things that I think are contrary to that is, like, health outcomes and maybe the environment. And, like, apart from that, it feels like... Is that a plane?
No, it's just a car. I open the window.
No. Don't stress about it. Yeah, I think... So he talks a lot about that, right? And it's like... I don't know. I feel like the main thing that's going wrong with humanity at the moment is health and the environment, I guess. So it's like... And it feels like we're fighting a tidal wave uphill with both those things. But everything else seems to be getting better. Like, technology's getting better. Every other aspect seems to be getting better. But then we're just fucked in this one aspect. One or two aspects. And it's just, like... unsettling, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, those one or two aspects are also pretty significant overall. Yeah. I mean, health is the fundamental underpinning of absolutely everything. Living, essentially. So, like, as much as it's nothing, it's also really, really important. And, it is depressing and it is really, really sad. And I don't know what the solution is. So I kind of, went from looking big picture and thinking, how can I save the world, to kind of closing right down to first, right, how can I save myself? Okay, now I'm good. Now I'm going to select people, 12 clients, and I'm going to make them amazing. Yeah. And I'm going to slowly work like that until I can work out a way of doing more. But, like, I'm kind of at the stage now, and it's just a step on my journey of working with super small numbers of driven, intelligent, motivated people and totally transforming their lives. And that's good for the moment, but it's not going to fix the bigger picture. But I mean, consider this: is the bigger picture fixable, or is this health divide just going to keep growing?
That's the thing. I think what gives me faith is, Renaissance periodization?
Yeah. So
they've got a cool app where it's like giving you intelligent recommendations, which is rare in like a fitness app. And it's not complicated. Like, it's not even, I don't think it even tells you the calories. Obviously it thinks about the calories. I think it's the RP Diet app. Shout out to them. And I think it just gives you the meal plan. So it's like, but you have options as well. So it's like, it'll give you like 180 grams of whatever and this and that. And then it's like a system like that, I think, is quite applicable to the general population. And it's like, it feels like a lot of people kind of give a fuck about their health. And there's a small percentage of people that really give a fuck. And then they're just hyper healthy. They're super healthy, eat like a health freak, whatever. But then there's a massive percentage that just couldn't give a shit. Do you feel like the work environment has a bit to do with that? Where it's like we're all so... It sounds very like tinfoil hat and hippie-ish. But it's like we're all chasing money. We're all like in the rat race. And do you think people will just end up chasing that, or...
Yeah, 100%. It's part of the environment. It's part of the life theme that people are kind of imprinted on, that you get a good job, whatever that means. You buy 2 cars, you have 1.5 kids, you get married, you buy a house, and you kind of go through the motions. And people do that automatically. They do it on autopilot. They get this job that, as you say, they don't care about. They work to get more money to keep up with their next door neighbors and whoever is on Instagram, and they're just living these pseudo lives. Yeah. And by the time they realize, they feel they can't salvage it, and there's no support around them to salvage or change it. And my advice is to break from that, but clearly only a small proportion are going to. Yeah. But that was literally, my life was becoming that. I was doing the whole doctor thing. I bought a car, I bought a house. I was literally on the edge
White
of the cliff,
fence, sort of. Yeah.
Like I was on the conveyor belt, and I was like, right, I need to get out. And I did. I jumped, and it was bloody glorious. And because I hadn't got myself caught in this. And the thing is, people trap themselves. They buy this house that they can't afford. I mean, I see people on minimum wage jobs driving newer BMWs than me. Like, you know, you spend half of your monthly income on that BMW. I promise you, I spend nothing on mine. It's 12 years old. I bought it for, you know, I paid it off 6 years ago. I still drive it around. It's 150 miles on the clock, 150k.
Yeah.
Like, they're spending money they don't have. They're getting trapped. So they have to keep working overtime, and doctors are awful for this. So then you've got no way out. You're working the full week plus extra. You're building on the stress. It's just endless, and it's all out of your control, which is another huge stressor. You know, the government says we cut the pensions. You know, your boss says you're fired. We're going to reduce your wage, or it's not going up with inflation, or whatever else. Like, the odds are stacked against the world.
Yeah.
But there is opportunity to change it. This is an unprecedented time. We've got the internet. We've got the knowledge of everything we want at our fingertips for essentially free.
Yeah.
So there is the potential out there to do literally anything.
Yeah.
But
my only
most people won't.
observation to that, though, is the fact that to get successful in an entrepreneurial field is excessively hard, I would say. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm just going about it a really, really fucking slow and difficult way, but it's like I've been at this for 2.5 years so far, and 100% I've done some dumb shit that has made it unproductive. But it's like, I don't know, I think it's and you'd probably agree, it's like, it's really fucking difficult to transition. Like, it is one of the most difficult things I have ever tried to do in my entire life. And it's like taking a fucking leap of faith, right? It's like, I have this nice secure job I could go for, like, I could earn like 120k being a podiatrist. Like, they can earn a shit ton, especially if you own your own practice. Like, then you can branch out, be a business owner, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, but then it's like, I'm going for this sort of, I guess, unique field that's, I wouldn't say it's hyper competitive, but it's pretty damn competitive. And it's really fucking draining a lot of the time. It's like, I would say I'm struggling. Like, it's really fucking hard to get to the point where you're doing it as an entrepreneur and you can make it your fucking business. And that's the thing, is I don't think most people are prepared to handle that. Like, I'm in a really lucky position. I live at home. My degree's not that hard. I think I'm intelligent or studious enough to be able to cope with it while doing this shit. And I'm struggling. And it's like, I work, I'd say all the fucking time. But it's like, I enjoy half the shit that I do. Like, the podcast, fucking love it. It's not work. It's like, it's fun as fuck. Like, it would be a real fucking stretch to call this a chore. Like, I get to sit here and have intelligent, fun, interesting conversations that people would beg to have. It's like, I feel so lucky to be able to do this. But it's like, to switch into something that you see as your passion, it's often a field that's incredibly difficult to get into. Like, if your passion is acting, you're fucked. Like, it's like, if your passion is something like a sort of a more sort of skill that a lot of more people can do, like being a PT, online coach, or making cakes, like, I think you've got a much, much better chance. But I think, and I'm assuming you'd agree here, it's like the dad who's got 2 kids, who is about to have a 3rd kid, and he's been in a stable job and whatever, but he feels worked into the ground, or he's just fucked. It's like, for him to change jobs is so, or him to even do a side hustle in his spare time is difficult as shit. And I mean, it does get to a point where it's like, just do some more work. Like, don't waste so much fucking time watching Netflix or whatever. But my thing is, I don't think most people are prepared to do that. It's like, they're just not, which is unfortunate.
100%. This is one of the most difficult things ever. And I could pick out, it's not even a number, 10, 20, 30 times where I could have given up, where things have failed and I could have given up. And any one of those times, you could see the story in your head. I quit medicine. I tried to open a gym. It failed. I went back to medicine. Yeah. I quit medicine. I wrote a book. It failed. I went back to medicine. So the perseverance is is key. It's kind of like you have to keep going. You have to be doing it for a greater reason than just money. And yeah, it's like super difficult. I mean, I wouldn't inflict some of the stuff that I've had to do on my worst enemy. Like, you know, it's
comes
I mean,
comes with the pursuit, I guess.
The first 6 months where I was kind of trying to leave medicine and do everything, I was prepping for a bodybuilding competition, my first prep. I was revising for a medical exam. I was still working full-time medicine with 2 hours of commute a day. And I was trying to be an online coach and build an Instagram account.
When you're at that point, you can't afford to fucking go and drink on a Friday night. You just fucking can't. You can't afford to go hang out with your mates at all. Like, it's just it's nothingness. It's just pure fucking grind. And
so the benefit of having my house then meant that I could lock myself away. I could get rid of all the distractions from my environment. I could abuse stimulants. I could wake up at 4 a.m. without annoying anyone, do 2 hours work, train, drive to work for, 10 hours or whatever, drive home, train again, do whatever revision I needed to do, go to sleep for 4 hours, do it again, and just exist. And that was 6, 7, 8 months that I was doing that. And I felt like I was hustling hard, and that was awesome. And the biggest thing I've kind of learned more recently is that it's not about hustling or doing stuff to get to a specific end point. Yeah. The end point, the goal, which is super important, I think, sets the direction that you're going to travel in. Yeah. And then as long as you're moving in that direction, you're winning. Yeah. You take every moment as it is, you enjoy it. So if you've got, the guy, the dad with 3 kids or whatever, then he just needs to set the direction, set his resolve, and just start.
Yeah, and just do the shit that works, right? Like, there's some shit, and we waste a lot of time. Like, I spend a fuck ton of time on Instagram. It's just a waste of most of it's a fucking waste of time.
The best thing I did was reduce my screen time to less than 2 hours a day. Even that's an absolute joke. That's an hour and a half at least, 2 hours a day of me looking at my phone. Like, I could read an extra book a week. Yeah. With that amount of time, 7 hours, 14 hours a week. Like, it's crazy. And I don't have a normal TV in my house. I have one which I connect to my Xbox, which I've not used for a long time, but I watch movies on it. Yeah. I don't have other kind of traditional distractions, certainly nothing in my bedroom. So there's so much time that you can save. And a lot of people will kind of say, oh, it's overwhelming. They make their excuses. And then they go back to sitting on Facebook and, watching Netflix. So I think you can always give examples of people who, like, all right, it's tough for certain people, but also people need to just start. They need to start doing the things that, as you say, work. Like, read a book a week for a year and you'll be in an infinitely better place in a year's time.
Like, when I was 14, I started reading, No Excuses by Brian Tracy. I think it made me like a fucking psycho for like a few years. But man, it worked. Like, then I followed that up with like Napoleon Hill and like Richest Man in Babylon, and I was like fucking 14, mate. Like, I don't know. I just found it on YouTube one day, and I just watched it, and I was like, "Fuck, this is dope." Like, I don't know. I had no other guidance in life, and then that just fucking worked. Like, really, there's a point where it's like, yeah, shit's hard, but I definitely agree. It's like, there's a point where it's like, okay, mate, you waste a shit ton of time. Like, if we just took social media off people's phones, the world would get like mind-blowingly more productive because people would just be bored and then work or something. Like, or we got rid of Netflix, TV, etc. It's like, fuck, I don't think that's productive. Like, I don't know. Netflix really pisses me off because it's like people will come home, mindlessly watch Netflix while they fucking scroll Instagram, and it's like, are you even enjoying yourself? Like, are you seriously even enjoying Stranger Things or whatever the fuck you're watching? It's like, I don't know. It's just like, why? I don't personally get it. I can understand it, but it's like, you can't then do that for 2 hours a night and then complain that shit's hard. It's like, okay, if you're a 16 to 25-year-old person without a family who's single or in a not that committed relationship, you can fuck off. Like, you have time. You really do. Like, you can drink every Friday night if you want, but it's like, mate, like, that's where the shit comes from. And it's like, Yes, it's mind-blowingly hard. Like, it's like, fuck. Like, I'm at the point where I feel like I have no choice but to do this sort of career, because it's like, I don't know, I just couldn't do the normal one. I just would be... It would just fucking suck. Like, I'm sure it'll be fun for a bit, or like, it'll be interesting to be in a professional environment, and I can find some sort of hope from it or something, or enjoy it, but it's like... And you probably feel a similar way. It's like, I just have to do this. It's like, I don't know, I can't imagine going back to a conventional career or going into one. I've never fucking been in one. And it's like I'm 20 years old, still in university. Like, I've done sort of minimum wage jobs, blah, blah, blah. I sell shoes currently. Like, I don't know, I couldn't imagine just going in that fucking rat race. And yeah, like, it's probably beneficial for a bit, and like, I'm fine with putting in my years of doing shit I don't like to get to a point where I'm able to do shit that I want. But I feel like for a certain period of time when you start this entrepreneurship, it's like you have to put in an excessive amount of work for a small period of time, or a year or two, just to get your feet on the ground. And then it's like with bodybuilding. Are you familiar with the volume landmarks? Like MRV, maintenance volume.
Oh, yeah. That's RP.
Yeah. So I feel like you need to be at your life MRV for a bit, and then you can go down to maintenance volume, and it's still fucking, like, nothing changes. It still works the same amount of views or whatever. And it seems to be pretty true. Like, it's weird. But I feel like you need to go to MRV in life at times.
There's a book, actually, which it talks about making quantum leaps as opposed to gradual progression. It's like U squared, I think it's called.
Right.
And it talks about a fly buzzing against a window, and this fly is trying really fucking hard. It's hustling. It's really working. You can see it going crazy against this window, not going anywhere. And then it suddenly goes out the window. No effort, infinite progress.
Yeah.
So sometimes the banging against the window is basically you trying to work out where the window is, where the open window is.
Yeah.
And then you'll make quantum leaps. And I've found that 100%, like, nothing happens for a while. You feel like everything has failed. The last 3 business ventures have failed. And you can either perceive them as failures and go back to, as I said, finish.
Yeah.
Or you can be super grateful that you've had these amazing learning opportunities and that you're going to continue to grow from there.
Yeah.
Like, challenging times are going to happen, but that's how you're going to become amazing. That's how you're going to upgrade. That's how you're going to become next level. Without these challenging times, you're going to be in a super precarious position, or you're going to go back to what you were doing before.
Yeah.
So every time something challenging comes up, and it will come up, shit will go the other way. Like, you must have seen that meme about entrepreneurship. Like, people think it's like that, and it's all like all up and down, all over the place.
Have
like,
you read
I'm going to die this thing?
The other book, not this book, but the other one, Obstacle is the Way?
Yeah.
I want to get it tattooed on me. Like, I have the statue from that book already on me, and I just fucking love it. Like, it really fucking... Love you, Ryan. And I feel like that book applies so hard here, because it's like, the obstacle truly is the way. It's like, I remember the hardest times that I've had with this podcast, or like just the shittest work. Like, back when it was called the Student Side Hustle, I think it was pretty objectively shit. I wasn't that proud of it. Yeah, now I'd say I'm pretty proud of it. I'm pretty proud of the sort of vision that I have with this, and the pursuit of what I'm trying to do, and the focus around sort of the pursuit of truth in many areas. And it's like, back then it was just like, interview someone, get their story, it's fun, I get a connection. It's like, that doesn't do shit, mate. Like, and then back ages ago, it was called Walsham Weekly. It was fucking atrocious. It was absolutely terrible. I've kept the episodes on there, so please don't go and listen. But it's like, they are objectively shit. They are really objectively shit, and it's.
But
like,
it had to start that way.
Exactly. It's like,
I mean, I heard a quote, and it was literally like, if you're not embarrassed by what you did 6 months ago, then you're not moving fast enough. Like,
yeah, I agree.
You're not doing it right.
Yeah,
like,
I'm embarrassed by like 10 episodes ago. I'll like record a podcast, and by the time I edit it, I'm like, fuck, you're an idiot. Shit. Why did I say that? It's like, all the fucking time. I think it's different when you're listening to yourself because you always cringe at what you say no matter what.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, I said some dumb shit. I've said some real dumb shit in the past, and I've had to listen to all of it. So it's like, fuck.
I tell you what, another quote that I really like that's a little bit pessimistic and nihilistic is, no one cares. Like, literally no one gives a fuck. Like, we think everyone's looking at ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, actually, everyone thinks everyone is looking at them, and everyone's only thinking about themselves.
Yeah.
So everyone's walking around with this like little mirror, worried about what everyone is thinking, but is actually looking within.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's quite
and
obvious.
as soon as you
like as a teen.
Sorry, go on.
As a teen, like when I was in high school, I started this shit. Like I had a shitty blog, and then podcast came, and then I thought I was going to get judged. Yeah, I got a few comments. Like I'd go say I've got like 10, 20 comments about it that are quite negative or judgmental or whatever. And I don't know what people said about me behind my back because everyone knew I was doing it. And I didn't really keep it on the low. I would say I got judged. I would say I sort of did. But then it got to a point where once I started getting success with it or sort of some clout in the evidence-based fitness world and people could see that, it's pretty quickly people were like, fuck, man, props. That's so fucking cool. And then whatever, like with the physique stuff, like I made a pretty good transformation and people sort of, at the start they were like, oh, you're all about the gym now, mate? Like, look at you. And then I started to get pretty relatively jacked and they were just like, people start to be like, wow, pretty fast. But again, no one fucking cares. Like, if you succeed, they don't give a shit. If you don't, they don't give a shit. They don't fucking care, mate. They've got their own shit to deal with.
And also, who are these people? Like, literally they're, without insulting the whole world, they're nobodies. Like, they're spouting their opinions, and it's 100% a projection of their own, their own weaknesses, their own regrets, their own, inaction. And that's, what I smile and I pity people who say things like that, because it's, people who said to me, you're leaving medicine, that's a ridiculous idea. That's their fear. That's 100% their fear and regret. It's nothing to do with me and what I'm doing. And I still get it now. Oh, you're super lucky to do what you're doing. It's like,
mate, it's luck. Fucking luck. Fuck off. Like, I think I'm in a position that's lucky, but it's like I've worked fucking hard to get here, and I'm nowhere yet. But it's like I didn't just like if people could understand the amount of rejections and the amount of times I've followed people up. It's like fucking hell. At the start, it was like you message 100 people, 5 reply, 3 book a podcast, 2 don't turn up. And then you have to deal with that for the first 70 episodes while you get 7 views an episode. Like, you have to give a shit about conversation for that to occur. Like, it's like, mate. And fuck, but the feeling when it fucking works, and it finally fucking works, is like unbeatable. Like, I'll finish, like, even if we exclude views, all that shit, and we just think about the feeling I have when I finish a conversation, I'll be like, do you know Alberto Nunez? When I finished my conversation with him, or this other guy, Ben Esgro, he owns De Novo, I was just fucking beaming. Like, or Danny Lennon the other day. It's like, I was sitting there, smiling my fucking head off. It's like, I just don't know. Like, nothing fucking beats it. Because it's just like, I'm just mind blown at the, I don't know. It's like, I'm talking to these guys for free. Like, I don't pay. And it feels like I'm cheating the system. It's like, I don't know, it's just fucking insane. I get to ask them whatever fucking questions I want. And, like, within reason, obviously, but it's like, if I have a question I fucking wondering about, I can ask. And it's just mind-blowingly cool. But it's like, that does not mean that it's just a walk in the fucking park to get here. Like, all the setup shit, like, the amount of money I've had to spend on this shit, it's like, a decent amount for what you would think. And, you couldn't even count the hours. Like, you just fucking couldn't. And then it's like the sacrifice of like sleep or going out or whatever. It's like, yeah, it's like I can still live a pretty normal life, but it's like, I don't know. I'm really cool with the sacrifice. I'm fine with it because it's like I couldn't have it any other way. Like, it's just like, fuck it. Like, I wouldn't want to go and do the conventional shit. Like, I respect people who do, and like I don't get it, but it's like they don't get this either. Like, they don't understand why I want to do this.
It's their choice.
Yeah.
It's their choice, and it's not a sacrifice if you. I don't feel like I'm sacrificing Friday nights out. I'm super pumped. I don't even know the day of the week most of the time. I'm just like super pumped to go to bed at 10, 10:30, like 9:30 if I'm lucky.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm super pumped about that. Like that, I'd be sacrificing my 9:30 bedtime to go out. You know, so.
Yeah, I don't know. I think entrepreneurship is just it's so beautiful. Like it's given people so much hope, and it's like fucking insanely cool. And like someone like Gary Vee, right? I don't agree with everything he says. He says some dumb shit, but it's like when you first get into entrepreneurship and he gives you that kick up the ass of like, no one gives a fuck about what they think. No one thinks about you. No one cares. No one gives a shit. Like maybe your mum does, but even like she's got shit to do too. So it's just like, and what you do is precedented on what you fucking do. Like if you want to be something, cool, you fucking can be. Just put in more hours than necessary, like more hours than you normally would. And it's like someone like that I think is useful at the start. I mean, it's a whole different conversation when we get into like chronic workaholism. So it's like that's a whole fucking can of worms. But yeah, it's a magical journey that I think we're on.
Yeah, I wouldn't change it for anything. And that was like the one point that was set in stone for me was I didn't want to go back. Like there's no way in hell I'm going backwards. And like I don't know if this is normal or not, but every year that I feel I've been alive and can remember has been better than the previous one.
Yeah.
Like every year I kind of think, shit, I should have started a journal at that point because, you know, loads of badass stuff happened. There's no point in starting one now because all the cool stuff's already happened, and the next year's even crazier, and like it just keeps happening. Like
same, yeah.
You know,
I mean, I'm like,
so
how old are you now?
32.
32. Still pretty young, but I mean, like I'm like, life shit's still occurring. Like I'm still experiencing like, this year I met my first friend who's now a parent. I mean, they're 30, but it's like good mates, and it's like for me it's like mind blowing. And my other friend's having a baby, and it's like, fuck, that blows my mind. Like, I've never had to experience that shit before. But then there's, like, podcast shit that just blows my mind. And it's like, okay, at this age, if your life is getting worse and worse every year, you really need to change some shit. But I feel like the standard is, like, once you get past, like, all the novel shit about life occurring, then it's like when it just deteriorates, it's like, fuck. Like, and I feel like entrepreneurship's a very good tool to sort of, like, get out of that. And then, like, as with you, it's like shit just gets better and better, and it just blows your fucking mind. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like if life isn't getting better and better every year, it's probably a good indication that you're not learning or something, or you're not continually progressing in some aspect. Because I feel like progression breeds kind of
happiness.
Yeah, I would say. Like, there's also an argument for saying like, okay, you don't need to progress at all costs all the time in everything. But, like, if you're growing in some aspect, like, for instance, if you're a dad now and you become a better dad, like, fucking that's dope. Like, if you just become a better dad, fucking props. That shit's hard. Mind-blowingly hard, and I can't even comprehend it. It's like, yeah, it's cool to see people progressing in any area. Health is a good one to progress in, definitely.
Yeah, health is kind of non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's kind of like the foundation, the keystone of everything else.
Yeah.
Like without health, you're really going to struggle. So yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's like the fundamental. I feel like everything has to build from there. Like if you get healthier, you get better at literally everything you fucking do. But yeah, I should probably go to my fucking podiatry placement because I told him I'd go after my podcast, and he's like, yeah, that's cool. So I'm gonna be late, but that's fine because it's pretty chill. But where can people find you? Do you have products? Where can people find your online coaching? Where can people find everything that you do?
So yeah, I mean, I'm on Instagram at Project Goliath. I have a website, www.dremil.com, the long doctor, DOCTOR. I'm on Facebook, Goliath Coaching by Dr. Emil. And I have a range of supplements, Dr. Emil Nutrition as well. So if you Google me, it all kind of comes up in a big, extensive mess. So yeah, I'm there.
Hey guys, thank you very much for listening to this episode. I hope you give us a review or you really enjoyed the episode. Let me know any feedback. I'm always open to any criticism, anything like that. Reach out to me on Instagram at James_Walsham, or if you'd like to follow my business account, follow at the Hypertrophy Hub. Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. If you would like to help the show, there's a list of ways to do so in the show notes, but if you're wondering how, the best thing to do is just give us a review on iTunes or just let me know how the show can be improved. Thank you very much. Hey guys, thank you very much for listening to this episode. I hope you give us a review or you really enjoyed the episode. Let me know any feedback. I'm always open to any criticism, anything like that. Reach out to me on Instagram at James_Walsham. Or if you'd like to follow my business account, follow at the Hypertrophy Hub. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you would like to help the show, there's a list of ways to do so in the show notes. But if you're wondering how, the best thing to do is just give us a review on iTunes or just let me know how the show can be improved. Thank you very much.